Every one of us loves to get an invitation to something. We like it because it says, well, you thought about me, and I'm special. And even more than that, I am included. You wanted me to be a part. I remember an event in high school when one of the young ladies that most of us were infatuated with had a birthday party. And she invited about 15 people. Only 2 were boys, and I was one of them. And I thought, this is pretty cool. And I set out immediately to be a part of that event because I was invited. And so when you get an invitation, usually it's a special thing. You like it. It makes you feel good. We like invitations. God has given us an invitation. God invites us in. Jesus, in the passage just read, invited us, come to me. We appreciate invitations. We ought to appreciate even more the Lord's invitation. Will you think with me for just a minute about the Lord's invitation? And then tonight we're going to explore our invitation to others that flows from the Lord's. But let us think first of all about this invitation of the Lord. It is solid. I mean, it's real, it's true, it's valid. Have you ever gotten something in the mail that was written in the form of an invitation, but you knew there was a catch? You have won, come and see. And for the right price, it'll be yours, right? Every now and then we get these phone calls on the church phone line. And you hear this whistle from a cruise ship. You have been selected to go to the Bahamas. Free. 4 days, 3 nights. But that's when you hang up the phone. Because it's an invitation, but wait a minute. This is a solid invitation. Notice with me, if you will, these things about the invitation of the Lord. Number one, it is an offer, not an order. I find it interesting, never thought about this before until studying for this. Genesis 7, verse 1. God turned to Noah and he said, come into the ark. Now that's contrasted by chapter 6, when he looked at Noah and he said, build the ark. He gave Noah an order of something to do, and after he had done it, he then said, come into the ark. In other words, it was an offer. He ordered him to build it, but he never ordered him to enter it. Because God doesn't operate that way. It's by an offer. Come, he said, into the ark. This offer, rather than an order, this offer is a reasonable offer. In Isaiah 1 in verse 18, God said to his people, come, let us reason together. Though your sins are as scarlet, they'll be white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall be white. God's offer of His invitation is reasonable. We might get any number of unreasonable offers, but with God, His invitation makes perfect sense. It's reasonable. Number two, it's satisfying. Isaiah 55 in verse 1, the New King James reads, "Oh, stop, look, come to the waters. Come to the waters. All of you who have no money, come and buy. Come and buy water or wine and milk without price, without money." It's satisfying. God closes His word in Revelation 23 and 17 with that same offer. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." Let him who is thirsty come, and let him drink of the water of life freely. Oh, it's satisfying. Like being out in the hot sun and working, and then you get that first taste of cool water. God says, my invitation to you is just that satisfying and more. And it's a clear offer. There's no fuzziness to it. There's nothing shady about it. 1 Peter 2 and verse 21. Christ suffered for us, leaving us an example that we should follow His steps. Come. Follow the steps of Jesus. You see, the Lord's invitation is solid. It's an offer that is real and it's offered to you and to me today. Number two, it's an option, not a personal opinion. Listen to Peter in 1 Peter chapter 3. He who would love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and His ears are open to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. What's He saying? What's the real option? The option is you want to have life and have a good one? Here's how you live. Now others have a different opinion. Oh, you can live. My opinion is you should be able to say whatever you want. My opinion is you ought to be able to talk any way you want to talk. Do whatever you want to do. That's my opinion. But that's not a real option. Because the life that Jesus calls us to is a real, valid option. It really can and does happen. If you want to love life, here's how you have to live. You're going to follow an opinion? Or are you going to follow the option of God? For instance, His invitation is the only option that allows real freedom. You've been called to liberty, Paul said to Galatians chapter 5 and verse 13. Don't use this liberty as an occasion for your flesh, but love one another in service. What's the real option? Freedom, God's way. Freedom, God's way, real freedom, not this false freedom that the world offers, but real freedom. It's the only option, doing it His way, not giving in to the flesh. The only option for peace, real peace, is the invitation of the Lord. 1 Corinthians 7 and verse 15, Paul said, God has called us to peace. Well, if God calls us to peace, then the place from which He is calling us must not be real peace. People in the world are trying to find peace all of the time. How are they doing it? You know, some find it in an alcoholic bottle. Others find it in a pill case. Others find it in bed after bed after bed with somebody else. What are they trying to do? They're trying to find a way to feel good inside. Yes, all of those things for a moment make you feel good on the outside, but it leaves you hollow on the inside. What's the Lord's invitation? You want to know what real peace is? Real peace is not found there. It is found in the Lord who has called us to real peace. And you want to know what it's like to find real contentment in life? Listen to Peter in 1 Peter 3 and verse 9. Not returning evil for evil, reviling for reviling, but rather blessing. What? You mean that's the better way to live? Not to turn around and give someone what they've given you? Absolutely. The only real option for living is in God's offer of invitation, not in the opinions of the world. Number 3. It's a real opportunity, not just an opening. When people look for jobs, there are basically 2 kinds that you can have. It's a job that is something to do to make money. And then there's one that gives you an opportunity to have a career. That's basically how it works. And so someone might say, I'm looking for a job. Well, do you just want to pass the time and make a little money? Or are you wanting something that will head you down the road for the rest of your life? One's an opening. The other is an opportunity. As God was leading His people out of Egyptian bondage, they've passed through the 40 years in the wilderness because of their sin. And now they stand on the other side of the Jordan, looking into that promised land. And listen to what God says. See, I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life. They literally were standing between the two. All of those people who had died in the wilderness behind them, and the promise of life in front of them. The curse that led to them having to spend the extra time in the wilderness behind them. And the blessing of God, a place that flows with milk and honey, in front of them. An opportunity, not just an opening. If you're looking for an opportunity, the Lord's invitation is for you. Are you looking for an opportunity for a real relationship that is meaningful? Listen to the words of God in Revelation 19:9. Right. Blessed are those who are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. The Bible presents the future this way. A great gathering of the faithful, the saved. And in that gathering, a great banquet feast is prepared. The Old Testament, in the book of the Song of Solomon, in a book talking about romantic love, uses an idea that fits the spiritual love relationship between God and His people. He invites me in to His banquet table. His banner over us is love. Do you want a relationship that it sounds like that? A relationship that will be endless. It is the marriage supper of the Lamb, when all the faithful, over whom He has guided and watched and prepared, and now endlessly to be in a relationship with, the Lord's invitation is for you to have that relationship. I know that there are people, even in this room, struggling to have relationships with other people. The relationships that you have found have not been satisfying. You haven't made connections that you want to make. You're wanting to be meaningful to somebody else. You want to have a connection that allows you to depend upon that person and turn to that person. I hope you find it. I'm fully convinced that the Lord's church is set up in such a way that you have opportunities in the Lord's church to find those human connections, and that's what we're wanting to do here. But let me tell you this. You may not ever find it here in a satisfying way. But if you take the Lord's invitation, you finally will have it in that marriage feast of the Lamb. An endless, fulfilling, satisfying relationship for the real part of us, our spiritual beings. Number two, if you're looking for lasting honor, the Lord's invitation is for you. This is a real opportunity. There's some people who don't get an opportunity to win a lot of honors in this world for whatever reason. Maybe the thing that you do really well, nobody competes with, and there's nobody to give you honor, and you're overlooked. But don't you love it when somebody just says, I appreciate you, or takes the time to hand you a note, makes mention of you in some way? The Lord's invitation is an opportunity for you to be honored. Honored for a lasting time. 1 Peter 5:10, after you've suffered for a while, may He strengthen, settle, and establish you. From now on, that's what God wants to do. His offer, His invitation is, I want to give you honor that will last all from now on, eternally. If you're really looking for it here and can't find it, God says, I'll give it to you. That's much more important anyway. And finally, third, are you looking for a place to live eternally? Eternally. Because of no decay, nothing falls apart. We noticed just not too long ago that one end of our house is trying to fall down. And I got concerned. I said, wait a minute. Am I going to wake up one day and half of my house is gone? Well, it turns out that the bricks had not been secured to the inner wall. And the bricks are sort of just leaning off the house. I've been assured everything's okay. The words were, it's okay. If it falls down, they can put it back up. Okay, that's okay. The house is going to be fine. But you know what? That house is going to fall down someday. But God offers an eternal abode. He has called us into His eternal kingdom and glory. 1 Thessalonians 2:12. It's a real opportunity, not just an opening. The Lord's invitation is solid. It's His offer. It's His option. It's His opportunity. The question is, are you excited to get it? And will you RSVP that you're coming? Let me give you a second thought as we close. You know that drive that you take all the time? I mean, constantly. You drive the same place all the time, every time. And then one day, you look up and think, wow, I don't remember stopping at a traffic light. The details of this trip that you take all the time begin to fade away to the extent that you've done it so many times that you don't remember the details of it. And you begin to get a little nervous sweat thinking, wow, can I just check out like that while I'm driving? Am I still safe on the road? It's the rote habit that causes that to happen. In a moment, we're going to sing a song. For all of my life in the Lord's church, I've heard it called the invitation song. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I like it. I think it is a good plan when we get together and we discuss and we talk and we think and we encourage each other. Maybe somebody wants just a little bit of a nudge to respond to the Lord's invitation. But this is serious. This is not a habit. That is, it's not something that we should do without thinking. Over and over we do it. What about it? Why do we have this invitation song? Paul said in a passage we're going to study tonight, 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 20, we're ambassadors of Christ, as though Christ is imploring us or imploring you through us. Be reconciled. We want each other to be reconciled to God if we are not. Now here's my question. What's this about? Sure, it's so habitual. I've been in places where they don't even say stand and sing, and everybody just stands and sings. Because that's what we've always done. In fact, if we say sit and sing, some would be standing and sitting and trying to figure out, well, wait a minute. So why do we do this? Well, number one, it's a time for me to think about me. What is my relationship with God? Do I need to talk to Him, just Him and me? And make sure that I'm where I need to be? Do I need to clear something up with somebody here? Have I damaged this whole family? And I need to let them know that I'm sorry? Number two, it's for me to think about you. I know people here who are not children of God. You've not been immersed into Christ. You're outside of Jesus. The work was done at the cross. But in order for it to work for you, you have to follow what Jesus said. If you love me, keep my commandments. What did Jesus say? He who believes and is baptized will be saved. So this invitation is a time for me to think about you because you are lost. And I've talked to some of you. You know people who are lost. You've prayed for them. You've talked to them. This is a time to think about that. Let me tell you what it's not for. What we're going to do in a moment is not for you to gather your stuff and get ready to leave. Putting all the kids' toys back into place and cleaning up where the food has been eaten. That's not what this is. It's also not about stretching because we've been sitting for this sermon. It's not what it's about. It's not even about talking to your neighbor about what we just talked about in the sermon. That's not what it is. Because this is serious. Sure, the passage read at the beginning is the Lord's invitation for all time, always available, always open. But there are specific times when we have an opportunity to be reminded specially of that invitation. We hinder others who might seriously be thinking about it when we use this time to go in and out, rustle around, and by habit, without thinking, participate. So today, the Lord's invitation always open, but especially now, we think about it for those who might need it. To say, I'll take the offer. I like the option. And I certainly want that opportunity. If we can help you today, will you come as we stand and sing?